The wind howls through Chicago's streets on a bitter December afternoon. Katie Miller sits on a worn park bench, her breath fogging in the icy air. She's 25, a supermarket cashier with tired eyes and a warm heart. Her shift ended 20 minutes ago, and this is her sanctuary, a quiet corner of Lincoln Park where she can eat lunch alone. She pulls a sandwich from her bag, chicken grilled just right, wrapped in foil she reused from yesterday. It's her small luxury after a 10-hour day scanning groceries for impatient customers. Across from her, a man shivers on another bench. He looks about her age, maybe a little older, bundled in a thin jacket that does nothing against the cold. His dark hair sticks out messily, and his hands are stuffed deep in his pockets. Katie watches him for a moment, noticing how he keeps glancing at the gray sky, like he's waiting for something. She doesn't know his name yet, but soon she will. His name is Owen Hayes, and he owns half this city. Katie unwraps her sandwich, the smell of roasted chicken filling the air. She takes a bite, savoring the warmth, when she catches Owen's eye. He looks hungry, not just cold. His face has a strange mix of exhaustion and something else she can't place. Maybe pride, maybe shame. She hesitates, then makes up her mind. Standing, she walks over, her boots crunching on the frozen grass. "Hey," she says, her voice soft but firm. "You look like you could use this more than me." She holds out half her sandwich, the foil crinkling in her hand. Owen blinks, startled, then stares at the food like it's a lifeline. "No one should be hungry in Chicago," she adds with a small smile. "Take it." He reaches out slowly, his fingers brushing hers as he takes the sandwich. "Thanks," he says, his voice low and rough like he hasn't spoken all day. Up close, Katie notices his shoes, polished leather that seems out of place with his shabby jacket. She shrugs it off, figuring he's just some guy down on his luck. "I'm Katie," she says, sitting on the edge of his bench. "What's your name?" "Owen," he replies, taking a bite. He eats fast, like he's starving, and for a second Katie wonders when he last had a meal. "I'm between jobs right now," he adds, avoiding her gaze. "Rough day." "Tell me about it," Katie laughs, settling in. "I just spent 10 hours ringing up canned soup and arguing with a lady about expired coupons. You?" Owen pauses, then grins faintly. "Got caught in the cold without a plan. Happens more than you'd think." They talk for a few minutes, the conversation easy despite the wind biting at their faces. Katie tells him about her job, how she saves every penny for a dream she barely believes in, opening a little bakery someday. Owen listens, nodding, his eyes locked on her like she's the only person in the world. The sandwich is gone too soon, and Katie stands to leave. "Gotta get back to reality," she says, brushing crumbs off her coat. "See you around, Owen." He nods, watching her go, the foil still clutched in his hand. She doesn't look back, doesn't see the way his expression shifts, a mix of gratitude and something deeper. What Katie doesn't know, what she couldn't possibly guess, is that the man she just fed isn't some drifter or jobless wanderer. Owen Hayes is the heir to Hayes Properties, a real estate empire that owns skyscrapers, malls, and half the downtown skyline she walks past every day. He's worth millions, maybe billions, but today he's sitting in a park, eating her sandwich, because he chose to leave that world behind, if only for a moment. He didn't plan to meet her, didn't expect her kindness to hit him so hard. But it did. As Katie disappears around a corner, back to her life of long shifts and small dreams, Owen stays on that bench, staring at the empty foil. He's been invisible to most people his whole life, seen only for his name or his money, but Katie saw him, really saw him, without knowing a thing, and that's when he decides he has to see her again. Because a sandwich in the cold might just be the start of something neither of them can imagine. 2 days after the sandwich in the park, Katie Miller is back at work, pushing a cart of canned goods down aisle 7 of the supermarket. Her hands move fast, stacking soup cans while Christmas music crackles through the store's old speakers. She's thinking about her next shift, her next meal, when the bell above the door jingles. She doesn't look up, not until a familiar voice says, "Hey, Katie, got a second?" It's Owen Hayes, standing there with a paper cup of coffee in his hand, steam curling up from the lid. He looks different today, less like a lost soul and more like someone who slept somewhere warm. His jacket is still thin, but his eyes are bright. "Thought you might need this," he says, holding out the coffee. "It's black, no fancy stuff. Figured that's your style." Katie takes it, surprised, her fingers warming against the cup. "You didn't have to do that," she says. But she's smiling, and he smiles back. "I owed you," he replies. "That sandwich saved me the other day." She laughs, brushing hair out of her face. It was just bread and chicken, not a miracle. But to Owen, it was more than that, though he doesn't say it yet. That's how it starts. Owen begins showing up at the supermarket, not every day, but often enough that Katie notices. Sometimes it's coffee, sometimes a candy bar from the checkout lane. Once a handful of wildflowers he claims he found near the park. Perks of being between jobs, he jokes. Lots of time to wander. She doesn't ask too many questions, just enjoys his company. He's easy to talk to, doesn't judge her for the apron stained with tomato sauce or the way she counts her tips at the end of a shift. They fall into a routine, meeting at Lincoln Park during her lunch breaks. Katie brings sandwiches, turkey one day, peanut butter the next, whatever she can scrape together. Owen brings soda cans, cold from a corner store cooler. They sit on that same bench, snow dusting the ground now, and talk about everything and nothing. She tells him about her dream to open a bakery, how she saved $300 in a jar under her bed. "It's stupid, I know," she says, staring at her hands. "Takes more than that to start anything." "It's not stupid," Owen says, his voice firm. "It's a start. Most people don't even try." He doesn't tell her he could buy her a dozen bakeries without blinking, that he owns the building across the street from where they sit. He's Owen Hayes, heir to Hayes Properties, a man who could snap his fingers and change her life. But he doesn't want that. He wants this, these quiet moments where she sees him as just Owen, not a name on a skyscraper. One evening, after her shift ends late, Owen waits outside the supermarket. The sky is dark, streetlights buzzing overhead. "Thought I'd walk you home," he says, hands in his pockets. Katie hesitates, then nods. They walk side by side, snow crunching under their boots, the city alive around them. She points out her favorite diner, a hole in the wall with greasy fries. He tells her about a trip he took once, hiking in the mountains, though he skips the part about the private jet that got him there. When they reach her apartment, a run-down building with a flickering porch light, she turns to him. "Thanks, Owen. This was nice." He steps closer, the air between them charged. "Katie," he says, his breath visible in the cold, "you're the best part of my day." She blushes, looks away, then back at him. For a moment, it feels like he might kiss her, but he doesn't, not yet. He just smiles and says goodnight, leaving her heart racing as she climbs the stairs. The next week, they're back in the park, snow falling heavier now. Katie unwraps a sandwich, hands him half like always. He takes it, but this time he lingers, his fingers brushing hers longer than necessary. "You ever think about getting out of here?" he asks, watching her closely. "Chicago's great, but there's a whole world out there." She shrugs, chewing slowly. "Sure, but dreams don't pay rent. I'm stuck here, at least for now." Owen nods, doesn't push. He wants to tell her he could change that, could take her anywhere she wants to go. But he doesn't. He's falling for her, hard, and the last thing he wants is to ruin this by letting her see the truth. He's not just some guy between jobs. He's a millionaire who walked away from boardrooms and penthouses to feel something real. But there are cracks in his story, little things Katie starts to notice. One day he gets a call while they're eating. His phone buzzes, a sleek model that doesn't match his worn-out look. He steps away, his voice low but tense. "Not now," she hears him say. "I told you I'm out." When he comes back, he's distracted, brushing it off as a wrong number. Another time, she spots him climbing into a black SUV after saying goodbye. But car too fancy for a guy who claims he's broke. Borrowed it from a friend, he says when she asks. But his smile doesn't reach his eyes. Katie doesn't push him. She likes him too much, maybe more than she should. There's something about Owen, the way he listens, the way he makes her feel seen. She's never had that before. Not with her ex who dumped her over text, not with the guys at work who only talk about sports. With Owen, it's different. She feels safe, understood, even if she can't shake the feeling he's holding something back. One night, after a long shift, they walk through the park again. Snowflakes catch in her hair, and Owen reaches out, brushing them away. His hand lingers on her cheek, and this time he doesn't stop himself. He leans in, kisses her softly, his lips cold but warm against hers. She kisses him back, her heart pounding, the world fading away until it's just them under the falling snow. When they pull apart, he rests his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that since the sandwich," he whispers. She laughs, breathless. "Took you long enough?" They stand there, wrapped in the moment, the city humming around them. Katie doesn't know it yet, but she's falling in love with a man who owns more than she could ever imagine. And Owen doesn't know how long he can keep his secret, how long he can pretend he's just a guy who needed her sandwich, because every day with her makes it harder to lie, and every smile she gives him makes him want to tell her everything. But for now, they have these simple moments in a cold Chicago winter, sandwiches and snow and kisses that feel like promises. It's enough until it isn't. And it's a Thursday afternoon, 3 weeks after the kiss in the snow, and Katie Miller is behind the supermarket counter, scanning a pile of frozen pizzas. The store is buzzing, holiday shoppers crowding the aisles, and the TV above the checkout lane drones with local news. She barely listens, her mind drifting to Owen Hayes. The way his laugh warms her even on the coldest days. They've been meeting almost daily now, sharing sandwiches and stolen moments, and she's starting to think this could be something real. The TV switches to a live broadcast, a reporter's voice cutting through the noise. Today, Owen Hayes, head of Hayes Properties, unveiled the new Riverside Tower, a multi-million-dollar project set to redefine Chicago's skyline. Katie freezes, her hand hovering over a barcode. She looks up, and there he is, Owen, on the screen. He's in a sharp suit, smiling for the cameras, shaking hands with men in ties. The reporter keeps talking. Hayes, one of the city's youngest real estate tycoons, continues to expand his family's empire. Her stomach drops. The Owen she knows doesn't wear suits or shake hands with tycoons. He's the guy in a thin jacket eating her sandwiches in the park. But the face on TV is unmistakable, the same dark hair, the same quiet confidence. She blinks, hoping it's a mistake, but the name flashes again. Owen Hayes, Hayes Properties. Her Owen. The customer in front of her coughs, impatient. Katie snaps back, finishes scanning, and hands over the receipt with shaky fingers. Her coworker, Jen, leans over from the next register. "Hey, isn't that your sandwich guy?" she says, grinning. "Saw him at the park with you last week. Didn't know he was loaded." Katie forces a laugh, but her chest tightens. "Yeah, me neither," she mutters, her voice barely audible over the store's chatter. She replays every moment in her head. The coffee he brought her, the flowers, the kiss. All those times she told him about her struggles, counting tips to pay rent, saving for a bakery that feels impossible. And he just listened, nodding, never saying a word about who he really is. A millionaire. No, a billionaire, probably. Someone who could buy her whole life with pocket change. Was he laughing at her? Pitying her? The thought burns, and she grips the counter to steady herself. That evening, Katie waits at their bench in Lincoln Park. Snow dusts the ground, the air sharp and still. She's got a sandwich in her bag, turkey this time, made for him like always. But tonight, it's not about sharing. It's about answers. Owen shows up right on time, hands in his pockets, that easy smile on his face. "Hey," he says, sitting beside her. "Long day?" She doesn't smile back. "You could say that." She pulls out the sandwich, unwraps it, and sets it between them. Made this for you. Figured you'd be hungry, since you're always pretending to be some broke guy who needs my food." Her voice is steady, but there's an edge to it, sharp enough to cut. Owen's smile falters. "Katie, what's going on?" He reaches for her hand, but she pulls away, standing up fast. "I saw you on TV," she says, her eyes locked on his. Owen Hayes, real estate king, building towers while I'm here stacking cans for minimum wage. "You've been lying to me this whole time." He stands too, his face paling. "Katie, listen, I didn't mean to." She cuts him off, her voice rising. "Didn't mean to what? Let me spill my guts about how hard life is while you sit there knowing you could buy this park if you wanted? I told you everything, Owen. How I can barely pay my bills, how I'm scared I'll never get out of this job. And you just nodded, pretending you're the same?" "I'm not the same," he says, stepping closer. "But I wasn't pretending with you. I swear, Katie, us, it's real." She laughs, bitter and loud, and it echoes through the empty park. "Real? You're a millionaire playing poor. That's not real, that's a game, and I'm the idiot who fell for it." She grabs the sandwich, throws it at his feet. It hits the ground, foil splitting open, turkey spilling onto the snow. "There's your dinner," she snaps. "Guess you don't need it, though. Probably got a chef waiting at your mansion." Owen stares at the mess, then at her, his eyes pleading. "Katie, please. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to look at me like that, like I'm some rich jerk who doesn't get it." "Then why?" she demands, tears stinging her eyes. "Why let me think you're just some guy? Why sit here eating my stupid sandwiches when you could buy the whole city?" He runs a hand through his hair, his voice breaking. "Because I hate that world, the meetings, the money, the people who only care what I can give them. You saw me, Katie. Not my name, not my bank account. Just me. That's why I didn't say anything." She shakes her head, stepping back. "You don't get it. I trusted you. I let you in, told you things I don't tell anyone. And you lied every single day." Her voice cracks and she wipes her face hard, refusing to let him see her cry. "I thought you were different, Owen, but you're just another guy who thinks he can play with people like me." "Katie, no," he says, reaching for her again. She dodges, turns away. "Don't," she warns. "Just don't. I need to think, and I can't do that with you here." She walks off, her boots crunching louder now, leaving him standing there with the ruined sandwich at his feet. He calls her name once, twice, but she doesn't stop, disappearing into the snowy dark. Back at her apartment, Katie locks the door and sinks onto the couch. Her hands shake as she pulls out her phone, scrolling through news articles she ignored before. Owen Hayes, 28, heir to Hayes Properties, worth billions. Pictures of him in suits, at galas, nothing like the man she knows. She throws the phone down, buries her face in her hands. She remembers his kiss, his laugh, the way he looked at her like she mattered. Was it all fake? A rich guy slumming it for fun? Meanwhile, Owen doesn't go home to a mansion. He walks the streets, snow soaking through his shoes, until he reaches a small diner near the park. He sits in a booth, orders coffee he doesn't drink, and stares out the window. He's messed up, bad. Katie's right. He lied, even if he didn't mean to hurt her. He wanted her to see him, the real him, not the name on a building. But now she's gone, and he's not sure he can fix it. He pulls out his phone, hesitates, then types a message. "I'm sorry, Katie. I should have told you. Let me explain, please." He hits send, watches it sit there, unread. She's not ready, not yet. But Owen knows he can't let her go, not like this, so he makes a choice, one he should have made weeks ago. He's done hiding. If he wants her back, he has to show her everything. The truth. The whole messy truth. And that starts with leaving the lies behind. Across town, Katie lies awake, the sandwich foil still crumpled in her bag. She wants to hate him, wants to forget him, but she can't, not yet. 3 days after the fight in the park, Katie Miller stands behind the supermarket counter, scanning groceries in silence. Her eyes are red from lack of sleep, her mind replaying Owen Hayes' face on that TV screen, his voice begging her to listen. She hasn't answered his text, hasn't seen him since she walked away. The sandwich she threw still haunts her, a symbol of everything she thought they had, now broken. She wants to move on, but something keeps pulling her back. It's late afternoon when Jen, her coworker, nudges her. "You okay, Katie? You've been quiet all day." Katie forces a smile. "Just tired," she says. But Jen doesn't buy it. "It's that rich guy, isn't it? Saw him on the news again this morning. Something about a big deal going south." Katie's stomach twists, but she shrugs it off. "Doesn't matter. He's not my problem anymore." That night, she's alone in her apartment, flipping through channels to distract herself. She stops on a local news station, and there's Owen again. This time, it's different. The headline reads, "Hayes Properties faces hostile takeover bid." The reporter's voice is clipped. Rival firm Carter Investments is pushing to seize key assets, including a supermarket property on Clark Street. Katie sits up. That's her store, her job, her life. She grabs her phone, searches Owen's name. Articles flood the screen. One catches her eye, a profile from years ago. Owen Hayes, from orphan to heir. Her breath catches as she reads. He was abandoned as a kid, grew up on Chicago's streets, hungry and alone, until a wealthy uncle took him in at 15. The words hit her hard. Hayes credits his survival to small acts of kindness from strangers. She thinks of the sandwich, how he ate it like it was his last meal. It wasn't just hunger that day, it was memory. Before she can process it, her phone buzzes. A text from Owen. "Katie, I need to see you. It's important. Meet me at the store tonight, please." She stares at the screen, torn. Part of her wants to delete it, to let him fade away. But the article, the takeover, the sandwich, it's too much. She grabs her coat and heads out into the cold. The supermarket is dark when she arrives, closed for the night. Owen stands by the entrance, his face tense, jacket pulled tight against the wind. "Thanks for coming," he says, stepping toward her. She crosses her arms. "What's this about, Owen? Another lie?" He shakes his head. "No more lies, I swear. But you need to know the truth, all of it." He takes a deep breath. "I was an orphan, Katie. Lived on these streets, begging for scraps. One day a woman gave me half her lunch, kept me going when I had nothing. That's why your sandwich meant so much. It wasn't just food, it was hope." His voice cracks and she softens just a little. "When my uncle found me, he gave me everything. Money, power. But I hated it. Everyone wanted something from me, never just me. Until you." Katie's throat tightens. "So why hide it? Why not tell me?" He looks away, snow catching in his hair. "Because I was scared. Scared you'd see me as Hayes Properties, not Owen. Scared I'd lose the one person who made me feel real." She wants to argue, but his words echo her own fears, being seen as less because of what she doesn't have. Before she can respond, headlights flash across the lot. Two men climb out of a black car, their faces hard. "Hayes," one calls, voice sharp. "Time's up. Sell the store or we take it." Owen steps in front of Katie. "This isn't your property, Carter. Back off." The man laughs, pulling a crowbar from his coat. "You walked away from the game, kid. Now we play ours." It happens fast. The second man lunges at Owen, fists swinging. Owen ducks, shoves him back, but the crowbar swings down, catching his arm. He stumbles, blood staining his sleeve. Katie screams, "Stop!" and runs forward, grabbing a discarded broom from the sidewalk. She swings it hard, hitting the first man's shoulder. He curses, dropping the crowbar, and both men retreat to their car, tires screeching as they peel away. Katie drops the broom, turns to Owen. He's on his knees, clutching his arm. "You okay?" she asks, her voice shaking. She kneels beside him, pulls off her scarf and ties it around the cut. "I'm fine," he says, wincing. "Thanks to you." She shakes her head, tears spilling now. "Why didn't you just sell? Why fight for this place?" "Because it's yours," he says, meeting her eyes. Your job, your people. I couldn't let them take it. Not after everything you've given me. She stares at him, the scarf soaking red, her hands trembling against his skin. Owen, you're an idiot, she whispers, but there's no anger left, only something softer, rawer. He reaches for her hand, holds it tight. Katie, I don't need the money, the buildings, any of it. I need you to believe me. What I feel, it's real. No lies, not anymore. She pulls back, stands, snow swirling around them. You should have told me, she says, her voice steady now. About the streets, the empire, all of it. I deserved that. I know, he says, struggling to his feet. And I'll spend every day making it right if you let me. She doesn't answer, just looks at him. Blood and snow and honesty between them. The fight, the danger, it stripped away the last of his mask. She sees him now, not the millionaire, not the orphan, just Owen, bleeding for her. They hear sirens in the distance. Someone must have called the cops. Katie steps closer, brushes snow from his hair. You're a mess, she says, a faint smile breaking through. He laughs, wincing again. Yeah, but I'm your mess, if you'll have me. She doesn't say yes, doesn't say no. She just stands there, holding his gaze, the city alive around them. Inside, she's reeling. The sandwich wasn't just a meal. It was a bridge, from his past to her present. He's not the man she thought, but maybe he's more. A kid who survived unkindness, a tycoon who walked away from power, a guy who'd take a hit to protect her world. She's still hurt, still mad, but she can't deny what's growing between them, something stronger than secrets. The police arrive, lights flashing, and Owen explains the attack, leaving out the personal parts. Katie watches, her scarf still tied around his arm, a piece of her keeping him together. She doesn't know what comes next, doesn't know if she can trust him again, but as the snow falls, thick and quiet, she feels it, a pull she can't ignore. Love, maybe, or something close to it. The snow falls steady over Chicago the next morning, blanketing the city in quiet. Katie Miller sits at her kitchen table, a cup of coffee gone cold in her hands. She hasn't slept, not really, not after last night. Owen Hayes' blood on her scarf, his voice saying he'd fight for her, it's all still there, replaying in her mind. She wants to hate him for the lies, wants to walk away and never look back, but she can't. Not after what she saw, what she felt. Her phone sits beside her, Owen's text from last night glowing on the screen. Katie, I need to see you, it's important. She didn't reply then, but now with sunlight creeping through the blinds, she types back, Park, noon, don't be late. She hits send, her heart pounding, unsure if she's ready for this. But she needs answers, needs to know if there's anything left to salvage. At the supermarket, things are tense. Word of the attack spread fast, and Jen corners Katie before her shift. Heard your boyfriend took on some thugs last night, she says, half teasing, half serious. Saved the store, huh? Katie shrugs, tying her apron. He's not my boyfriend, and I don't know what he saved. Jen raises an eyebrow. Looked it up. Carter Investments wanted this place for a condo project. Owen stopped them. That's something. Katie pauses, the words sinking in. She thinks of Owen's arm bleeding, his refusal to back down. It wasn't just talk. He meant it. But it doesn't erase the lies, doesn't fix the trust he broke. She clocks in, scans groceries, her mind a mess of anger and hope. By noon she's out the door, heading to Lincoln Park, her boots crunching through fresh snow. Owen's already there, waiting on their bench, his arms in a sling, a bruise darkening his jaw, but he stands when he sees her. Katie, he says, his voice soft, like he's afraid she'll bolt. She stops a few feet away, hands in her pockets. You look terrible, she says, nodding at his injuries. He smiles, faint. Feel worse? But I'm here. She pulls a sandwich from her bag, turkey on rye, and sets it on the bench between them. Brought this, she says, her tone flat. Figured we should start where we left off." He looks at it, then at her, and sits. She sits too, the space between them heavy with everything unsaid. "Talk," she says. "No more secrets." He nods, takes a breath. "I told you about the streets, how I grew up." "That's true. After my uncle took me in, I got everything, money, power, a name. But it came with strings. Everyone wanted a piece of me. Family, friends, strangers. I started hating it, hating who I was becoming. So I walked away, not all the way, but enough to breathe. That day in the park, I wasn't planning on you, but you gave me that sandwich and it was like I was a kid again, seen for me, not my worth." Katie listens, her eyes on the snow. "You could have told me," she says. "After that first day, or the kiss, any time." He nods again, guilt in his face. "I know. I kept thinking I'd lose you. Every time I tried, I chickened out. I'm sorry, Katie, for all of it." She picks up the sandwich, tears it in half, hands him a piece. "Eat," she says. And he does, slow this time, not starving but savoring. She takes a bite too, chewing as she thinks. "Jen says you saved the store," she says finally. "That true?" He swallows, meets her gaze. "Tried to. Carter's been after my properties since I stepped back. They thought I'd cave. I couldn't let them take your place." "Why?" she asks, her voice sharp. "Why risk it for a rundown supermarket?" He sets his half down, leans forward. "Because it's yours. Your job, your life. I've got millions, Katie, but you've got heart. I'd trade it all for that." She looks away, tears pricking her eyes. You don't get to say that, not after lying." "I know," he says, "but I'm done hiding. There's more you need to know." He pulls out his phone, shows her a document. "I bought the store months ago, before we met. Not to flip it, to fix it. Raised wages, kept everyone on. Didn't tell you because I didn't want you to think I was buying you." Katie stares at the screen, the dates, the numbers. It's real. He did it before the sandwich, before the lies got deep. She stands, paces a few steps, snow crunching under her boots. "You're telling me you've been playing savior behind my back. While I'm counting nickels, you're throwing money around?" He stands too, wincing as his arm shifts. "Not savior. I wanted to help, quietly. For you, for everyone there. I messed up not saying it." Katie stops, turns to him. "You're a mess, Owen Hayes. A rich, stubborn, messed up guy who doesn't know how to be straight with people." He laughs, short and pained. "Yeah, that's me. But I'm trying, Katie, for you." She steps closer, snowflakes catching in her hair. "Why should I believe you now?" He takes her hand, gentle, his fingers cold against hers. "Because I'm here, banged up, begging you to see me. Not the money, not the buildings, just me. I love you, Katie. That's the truth, no strings." Her breath catches, the words hitting her hard. She pulls her hand back, but doesn't walk away. "Love's not enough," she says. "Not after this." "I know," he says, "but it's a start. Let me prove it, day by day. No more secrets." She looks at him, his bruised face, his sling, the sandwich half-eaten on the bench. She remembers the fight, his blood, the way he stood between her and danger. It's not forgiveness, not yet, but it's something. She picks up her half, takes another bite. "Okay," she says finally. "One day at a time. But you screw up again, Owen, and I'm gone." He nods, relief flooding his eyes. "Deal." She sits back down, hands him the foil. "Finish it," she says, a small smile breaking through. He does, and they sit there, eating in silence, snow falling around them. A week later, Katie's at the store, restocking shelves. The mood's lighter, wages are up, and the Carter threats gone, thanks to Owen's lawyers. She hasn't seen him since the park, giving them both space, but when her shift ends, she steps outside, and he's there, leaning against a lamppost. "Thought I'd walk you home," he says, his arm still in a sling but healing. She nods, and they walk, snow dusting their shoulders. At her door, she turns to him. "Still owe you a sandwich," she says, pulling one from her bag. He takes it, grins. "Best debt I've got." She steps closer, kisses him quick, soft, then pulls back. "Day by day," she whispers. He nods and she goes inside, her heart lighter than it's been in weeks. They don't rush it. Days turn to weeks, then months. Owen helps her save for the bakery, not with millions, but with time, ideas, trust. She teaches him to bake, laughing when he burns the bread. It's slow, messy, real, and every sandwich they share feels like a promise, a step toward something neither saw coming that cold day in the park. 2 years have passed since that snowy night in Lincoln Park, and Chicago feels different now, warmer somehow, even in the depths of winter. Katie Miller stands behind the counter of her bakery, a small storefront tucked into the corner of the old supermarket building. The sign above the door reads Katie's Kitchen, painted in bright red letters she chose herself. Inside, the air smells of fresh bread and roasted chicken, and a line of customers stretches to the door. She's made it. Not with millions, but with every penny she saved, every late night she worked, and a little help from someone who believed in her. Owen Hayes leans against the wall near the cash register, watching her with a quiet smile. He's not in a suit, not today. He's in a sweater and jeans, his arm long healed from that fight 2 winters ago. He doesn't run Hayes Properties anymore, not fully. He stepped back, handed most of it to a board he trusts, and kept only what he needs. The rest he's given away, piece by piece, to projects that matter. One of them is this place, the community hub he and Katie built together. The supermarket still stands, but it's more now. Owen used his influence to turn it into a center for the neighborhood, a place with free meals on weekends, job training for kids like he once was, and Katie's bakery as its heart. They did it together, not with his money alone, but with their hands, their time. She bakes, he sweeps the floors, and every Saturday, they hand out sandwiches to anyone who needs one. A nod to the day they met. Today's special, though. It's December 15th, the anniversary of that first sandwich in the park. The bakery's packed, not just with regulars, but with friends, co-workers, even a few reporters who got wind of their story. Katie's in her element, passing out trays of mini sandwiches, chicken and rye, just like the one she gave him. Owen steps up beside her, takes a tray, and they work side by side, laughing as they go. When the crowd thins, Katie wipes her hands on her apron and looks at him. 2 years, she says, her voice soft. Still can't believe we got here. He sets the tray down, takes her hand. "I can. You're stubborn as hell, Katie Miller. Never doubted you'd make it." She laughs, squeezes his fingers. "And you're a pain, Owen Hayes. But I guess you're my pain." He pulls her close, kisses her forehead, and the room fades away for a moment. It's not perfect, never has been. They've fought, over money, over trust, over his past and her pride. But they've stayed, day by day, building something real. She doesn't need his wealth, never did. He doesn't need her to need it. They've found a balance, a life that's theirs, not defined by what he owns or what she lacks. The door jingles and a group of kids rushes in, faces bright with cold. "Sandwiches!" one yells, and Katie grins, breaking away to hand them out. Owen watches, his chest tight with something he can't name. Love, sure, but more than that. Gratitude. She gave him half a sandwich when he was lost, and now they're giving back, together, to a city that shaped them both. Later, as the sun sets, they lock up and step outside. Snow dusts the street, lights twinkling in the distance. Katie pulls a sandwich from her bag, the last one of the day, and tears it in half. "Tradition," she says, handing him his share. He takes it, their fingers brushing, and they eat in silence, leaning against the bakery wall. It's simple, bread and chicken, but it's everything. "Love's not about money," Katie says, swallowing her bite, "or buildings. It's this, right here." Owen nods, his eyes on her. "Yeah, just us, a sandwich, and a chance." She smiles, leans into him, and they stand there, snow falling soft around them. To the world, he might still be Owen Hayes, the guy who owned the city. To her, he's the man who needed her kindness, who chose her over everything else. And to him, she's Katie, the heart of it all. They've learned love isn't grand gestures or empires, it's the small things, shared in the cold, that hold you together when the rest falls away. So here's to them, to sandwiches and snow and second chances, a story that started with a bite and ended with a life, proving that sometimes the smallest gift can build something unbreakable.